They pushed me and my 6-year-old off a cliff for insurance money. Hiding in mud, she whispered. And Mom, they tried to kill you. Having you here listening to me means a lot. Watch until the end and let me know in the comments which city you're watching from. I'm really curious to see how far my story is reaching. Mommy, they wanted to kill you. Emma's whisper cut through the air like a knife, her small body trembling against mine as we hid in the mud beneath an outcropping of rocks. At 6 years old, my daughter should know what it means to hide for your life, yet here we were, our bodies broken from the fall, only alive because we had landed on a hidden ledge instead of the jagged rocks 80 feet below. I pulled Emma closer, wincing as pain shot through my shattered leg. Blood soaked through my hiking pants, but I couldn't worry about that now. Above us, I could hear David's voice, my husband, Emma's father, the man who had just pushed us off a cliff. They must have fallen all the way down, he called out, his voice eerily calm. The current probably took them downstream. My mother-in-law's voice joined his. Are you sure they're gone? No one could survive that fall, Mom. A pause. Let's head back and call for help. We need to report the accident. Accident. The word made me want to scream. There was nothing accidental about what had happened. The memory was razor sharp. David suggesting a family hike to Rainbow Falls, his parents tagging along, the way he had guided us to a secluded overlook for a better view, his hand on my back suddenly becoming a violent shove. I had instinctively grabbed Emma as we fell, my body twisting to shield her. Their voices faded as they walked away. Only when I was certain they were gone did I allow myself to cry, silent tears streaming down my face as I held my daughter. Emma, honey, how did you know? I whispered, stroking her tangled hair, now matted with dirt and blood from a gash on her forehead. I heard Daddy and Grandpa talking last night. Grandpa said something about insurance money, and Daddy said once you were gone, he'd be rich. Her voice was unnaturally steady, as if she was reciting something from a TV show rather than describing her father's plot to murder her mother. $2 million. That's what my life was worth to David. The value of the life insurance policy he had insisted I take out last year. For protection, he had said. In case anything happens to you, Emma and I will be okay. I closed my eyes, memories flooding back in painful clarity. The accidents over the past few months that suddenly made sense. The car that nearly hit me when my brakes mysteriously failed. The severe food poisoning after David cooked a special dinner just for me. The gas leak in our bedroom while David was away on a business trip with Emma. My husband had been trying to kill me for months. And today, he decided to take Emma too, his own daughter. Probably to avoid questions about why she wasn't with me during the tragic accident. We need to be very quiet, I whispered to Emma. They think we're dead, and right now, that's what's keeping us safe. Are they coming back? Yes, with other people. They'll pretend to look for us, but they won't look here. They'll search the bottom of the ravine and the river. Emma's small hand gripped mine. What are we going to do, Mommy? I had no idea. My leg was badly broken, possibly in multiple places. Emma seemed physically okay apart from the cut on her head and some bruising, but we were stranded on a narrow ledge halfway down a cliff in Pisgah National Forest. No phone, no supplies, and the people who should be searching for us were the very ones who had tried to kill us. We're going to survive, I told her with a confidence I didn't feel. When it gets dark and everyone's gone, we'll find a way down. Night was hours away. Search parties would be coming soon. Volunteers from town who genuinely wanted to help, led by David and his parents who would make sure no one looked too carefully at the ledge where we had landed. As Emma drifted into an uneasy sleep against my chest, I stared at the darkening sky. How had I missed the signs? The changes in David had been subtle, the growing coldness, the increasing control over our finances, the way he had slowly isolated me from friends and family. I had been so in love with him once, had trusted him completely. Now I realized I had never really known him at all. A distant sound of voices reached us. The search party was forming. I eased us further back into the shadows of the outcropping, ignoring the searing pain in my leg. Emma, I whispered, gently waking her. Remember what I told you? We need to be completely silent now, no matter what. Like we're playing the quietest hide and seek ever. She nodded solemnly, her eyes wide with a fear no child should know. As the voices grew closer, I made a silent promise to my daughter. We would survive this. And somehow, someday, David and his parents would pay for what they'd done. But first, we needed to disappear. 3 days. We survived 3 days on that narrow ledge, hidden from the search parties that combed the area below. David made sure they searched everywhere, except where we actually were. I watched him direct volunteers away from our location, his fake grief perfectly calibrated, concerned enough to appear devastated, composed enough to lead the search. When the official search was called off on the 3rd day, I knew it was time to move. My leg was swollen to twice its normal size, the bone visibly misaligned beneath the skin. Every movement sent waves of agony through my body. But staying meant certain death. "Emma," I whispered in the pre-dawn light. "Today we're going to climb down. It'll be scary, but I need you to be brave." My 6-year-old nodded, her face dirty and tear-streaked but determined. She had barely complained despite the hunger, thirst, and terror of our situation. Had David ever truly seen how extraordinary his daughter was? Or had she just been an accessory to him, part of the perfect family image he projected? The descent was excruciating. I fashioned a makeshift splint from branches and strips of my shirt, but it did little to stabilize the break. Each movement down the rocky face was torture. Emma climbed just ahead of me, her small hands finding holds I directed her toward. "You're doing great, sweetie," I encouraged through gritted teeth. Just like our rock climbing lessons at the gym. Halfway down, my handhold crumbled. I slid several feet, rocks tearing at my skin before I managed to stop myself. The scream I couldn't suppress echoed through the canyon. "Mommy." Emma's terrified voice came from below. "I'm okay," I gasped, though I was anything but. Fresh blood soaked through my pants, and I suspected the bone had now torn through the skin. "Keep going, baby. Almost there." It took us 4 agonizing hours to reach the bottom. By then, I was barely conscious, moving on pure instinct and determination. Emma helped me hobble away from the main search area, deeper into the forest where we collapsed beside a small stream. As Emma cupped water to my lips, memories flooded back unbidden. David and I standing at the altar 5 years after college, his eyes seemingly filled with love as he promised to cherish me forever. His parents welcoming me to the family with careful smiles that never reached their eyes, his mother Ellen commenting that I wasn't exactly what she'd pictured for her only son. The gradual way David began critiquing everything, my clothes, my friends, how I spoke to his colleagues at parties. The first time, he shoved me during an argument, then spent days apologizing, blaming work stress. The joint bank accounts he insisted on managing because I was bad with money, though I'd always been financially independent before our marriage. How he'd convinced me to leave my job as a wildlife biologist when Emma was born, saying we didn't need the money and she deserved a full-time mom. "Mommy? Someone's coming." Emma's urgent whisper snapped me back to reality. Heavy footsteps approached through the underbrush. I pulled Emma against me, looking frantically for somewhere to hide, but my injured leg made quick movement impossible. An older man with a weathered face and a gray beard emerged from the trees. He carried a hunting rifle and wore faded camouflage. His eyes widened when he saw us. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, taking in my obviously broken leg, our filthy, blood-stained clothes. "Please," I whispered, positioning myself in front of Emma as best I could. "Please don't tell anyone you found us." He frowned, setting his rifle against a tree and approaching slowly, like one might a wounded animal. "You're that woman from the news. You and your little girl fell from Eagle's Point. They've been searching for 3 days." "We didn't fall," Emma said firmly. "Daddy pushed us." The man's eyes narrowed, flicking between Emma's determined face and my desperate one. "My husband tried to kill us," I confirmed. "He wants my life insurance money. If he knows we're alive, he'll try again." For a long moment, the hunter just stared at us. I held my breath, knowing our survival depended on this stranger's decision. Finally, he nodded once. "Name's Ray Calloway." My cabin's about 2 miles from here. He glanced at my leg. I'll need to make a stretcher to carry you. Why are you helping us? I asked as he efficiently gathered branches. Ray paused. My daughter Jessica was killed by her husband 10 years ago. Nobody believed me when I said he was dangerous. His weathered hands resumed their work. I'm not making that mistake again. 2 hours later, Ray had us in a small cabin deep in the woods. It was simple but clean, with no phone or internet, just a radio for weather alerts. He set my leg with practiced hands. Was a medic in Desert Storm, he explained, securing the wooden splints. This'll hold until the bone starts healing, but you'll need real medical attention eventually. We can't go to a hospital, I said. They'll report it, and David will know. Ray considered this. Got a friend who retired from medical practice. Owes me a favor. He'll be discreet. That night, as Emma slept on a cot beside me, I watched a small TV in Ray's living room. The local news showed footage of David at a press conference, his handsome face stricken with manufactured grief. I'm grateful to everyone who helped search for my beloved wife and daughter, he said, voice breaking appropriately. The hardest part is not having their bodies to bury. He covered his face, shoulders shaking. The camera panned to his parents standing supportively beside him. His mother dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief while his father, the man who had said, "Make sure it looks like an accident," just before David pushed us, patted his son's shoulder consolingly. The reporter's voice was somber. Authorities have officially classified this as a tragic accident. With dangerous currents in the gorge below Eagles Point, recovery of the victims may never be possible. I turned off the TV, a cold, hard clarity washing over me. David and his parents thought they'd gotten away with murder. They were free to collect the insurance money, to be comforted by a community that saw them as victims of a terrible tragedy. But they had made one critical mistake. They had failed to kill us. And now they would never see us coming. Your new name is Sarah Mitchell. Your daughter is now Lily. I stared at the driver's license in my trembling hands. The woman in the photo was me, but with brown hair instead of blonde, cut in a simple bob I'd never have chosen for myself. 2 weeks had passed since Ray found us in the forest, and now he was handing me a complete new identity. Ray, how did you? He held up a hand. Better you don't know. Friend of a friend who understands situations like yours. He placed a small backpack on the table. There's some cash, enough to get you started. Birth certificate for Lily, school records showing homeschooling, and medical papers. Emma, now Lily, looked up from the coloring book Ray had given her, studying the unfamiliar name on her new paperwork. She hadn't spoken much since our rescue, answering questions in single words, sleeping curled against me every night. Where will we go? I asked. Nashville, Ray said. Big enough to disappear in, small enough not to feel lost. My niece lives there, runs a diner. She'll give you work, no questions asked. That night, as Emma slept, I sat on the porch with Ray. My leg was healing, though I still needed crutches to walk. Ray's doctor friend had said it properly and provided antibiotics for the infection that had started to take hold. Why Nashville? I asked. Why not further away? Ray sipped his coffee. 2 reasons. First, you need to stay close enough to gather evidence against your husband. Second, if you go too far, you'll look like a fugitive when you eventually come forward. Come forward? Ray, I can't. You can and you will, he said firmly. Not now, but eventually. Otherwise, they win. I thought of David, living in our home, spending my insurance money, being comforted by friends who had no idea what he'd done. I thought of my in-laws, who had helped plot my death. Then I thought of Emma, who still woke up screaming every night. Tell me about your daughter, I said quietly. Ray was silent for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, he spoke. Jessica was smart as a whip. Married her college sweetheart, a man named Keith. Started showing up with bruises about a year in. Always had an excuse, clumsy, fell down, walked into a door. His voice hardened. I confronted her, but she denied everything. Confronted him once too. Next time I saw Jesse, the bruises were worse. He took a shuddering breath. Police found her at the bottom of their basement stairs. Keith said she'd fallen. They believed him. But you didn't.
No.
Spent 3 years trying to prove he'd pushed her. Got nowhere. Then he moved away, started fresh with a new woman. Ray's eyes met mine. That's why you need to be smart. Gather evidence. Make sure when you come back, they can't wriggle out of it. The next morning, we left before dawn in Ray's old truck. Emma was silent in the back seat, clutching a teddy bear Ray had given her. 4 hours later, he dropped us at a bus station with tickets to Nashville. Remember, he said, pressing a burner phone into my hand. Check in every 2 weeks, same time. You need anything, you call. Don't use your real name anywhere, not even when you think you're alone. I hugged him, this stranger who had become our lifeline. How can I ever thank you? Take that bastard down, he whispered. That's thanks enough. On the bus, I held Emma close as she slept. Beyond the window, the Appalachian countryside rolled by, beautiful and indifferent to our plight. I thought about all the signs I'd missed with David. How he'd isolated me from friends, suggesting they were using me or jealous of our happiness. How he'd taken control of our finances after Emma was born, putting me on an allowance that he claimed was for budgeting purposes. How his parents, Ellen and Richard, had always treated me with barely concealed contempt, while David assured me they just needed time to warm up. I remember the day Richard had helped David purchase my life insurance policy. Everyone needs protection, he'd said with a smile that never reached his eyes, especially with a young child to consider. They had been planning this for months, maybe years. I wondered if there had ever been a time when David truly loved me, or if I had always been just a means to an end. 3 days after arriving in Nashville, I stood behind the counter at May's Diner, wearing a waitress uniform and a name tag that read Sarah. Ray's niece, Maggie, had given me the job on the spot, no references required. She'd also helped us find a small apartment above a bookstore, paid for with cash. Order up for table 7, called the cook. I balanced plates on my arm, still awkward with my healing leg, and served a family of 4. The parents smiled. The children bickered over who got more fries. A normal family. That night's news showed David accepting a check from my insurance company, his expression appropriately solemn. The caption read, "Widower David Miller establishes memorial fund in wife's name." "That's Daddy," Emma said, looking up from her coloring book. It was the first time she'd acknowledged him since the fall. "Yes," I said, unsure what else to add. "Is he still trying to find us to hurt us?" I turned off the TV. "No, honey. He thinks we're gone. That's why we have to be very careful and use our new names." "I don't like being Lily," she said, lower lip trembling. "I want to be Emma again." I knelt beside her. "Someday you will be. I promise. But right now, we need to be Sarah and Lily to stay safe." She looked at me with eyes too old for her 6 years. "Are we ever going to be okay again, Mommy?" I pulled her close. "Yes, baby. We're going to be more than okay. We're going to win." 6 months of pouring coffee, serving plates of eggs and grits, and answering to a name that wasn't mine. 6 months of watching Emma struggle to remember to call herself Lily in public. 6 months of scanning newspapers, hunting for any mention of David or his family. "You look exhausted, Sarah," Maggie said one morning, using my fake name even though we were alone in the diner before opening. She'd become protective of us, though I'd never told her the full truth. She just seemed to understand we were running from something dangerous. "Nightmares again," I admitted. "Both mine and Emma's." Maggie nodded, saying nothing as she counted the register. After a moment, she spoke. "The woman at table 12 yesterday. She kept watching you." My heart raced. "What woman?" "Dark hair, expensive suit. Been in a few times now. Always sits in your section. Barely eats. Watches you like a hawk." I swallowed. Did she ask questions? Nope. Just tips well and stares. Maggie eyed me. "Want me to tell her to back off next time?" I shook my head. "No. Just let me know when she comes in again." 3 days later, the woman returned. I felt her eyes on me as I took orders from other tables, my hands shaking slightly as I wrote down an elderly couple's breakfast selections. Finally, I approached her table, notepad ready. "What can I get you?" She studied me, her dark eyes intelligent and assessing. "Just coffee, thank you." I brought her order, hoping she'd leave quickly, but instead, she gestured to the empty seat across from her. "I don't take breaks during my shift," I said. "I think you'll want to make an exception, Stephanie." My real name hit me like a physical blow. I glanced around frantically, but the diner was nearly empty. "Sit," she said, not unkindly. "I'm not here to hurt you." Against my better judgment, I slid into the booth. "Who are you?" "Rachel Wilson. I'm an attorney specializing in domestic violence cases." She slid a business card across the table. "And I know you and your daughter didn't die in that fall." "I don't know what you're talking about," I said automatically, but my voice trembled. Rachel leaned forward. "3 weeks ago, a client came to me. She's dating David Miller, your husband. He's started showing concerning behavior. Controlling, jealous, monitoring her spending." My throat tightened. "He's already found someone else?" "Insurance money makes a man attractive." Rachel's voice was gentle. "My client found something disturbing. Notes about your accident in his desk. Plans, calculations." When she confronted him, he became threatening. I stared at my hands, unsure what to say. "She came to me for legal advice," Rachel continued. "When I researched him, things didn't add up about your death. No bodies ever recovered. Search called off suspiciously quickly. And then a contact in the Forest Service mentioned an old hermit named Ray, who suddenly had a woman and child staying with him after your disappearance. Ray helped us," I whispered, abandoning pretense. "David and his parents tried to kill us for my life insurance." Rachel nodded. "I figured as much. Here's what you need to know. David's been spending your money lavishly. New car, renovating the house, expensive gifts for his girlfriend. But he's also been searching for you." Ice filled my veins. "What?" "He hired a private investigator 2 months ago. I don't think he suspects you're alive, probably just covering his bases. But it means you need to be careful." "What about Emma? Is she in danger?" "If he finds you both, yes. That's why I'm here." Rachel pulled out a file. "I've been building cases against abusers for 15 years. I can help you build one against David and his parents, one strong enough to put them away for a very long time." I studied her face, looking for deception. "Why would you do this?" "Because I've seen too many women like you end up in actual graves," she said bluntly. "And because your daughter deserves justice." That night, I sat on the edge of Emma's bed, watching her sleep. Her nightmares had become less frequent, but she still slept curled into a tight ball, as if protecting herself. During the day, she was quiet at school, her teacher reporting she rarely played with other children. "We'll be okay," I whispered, stroking her hair. The next morning, I called Ray from the burner phone. "You trust this lawyer?" he asked after I explained. "No. But I think she's genuine and she knows things that could help us." "Meet her in public places only," Ray advised. "And don't tell her about me." "Too late for that," I admitted. She already knew. Ray was silent for a moment. "Then we need to move fast. Insurance fraud investigators might get involved now. They hate paying out claims when there's suspicion involved." 2 days later, I met Rachel at a park, watching Emma play on the slide from a bench partially hidden by trees. "I have friends in another jurisdiction," Rachel said, without preamble. "Detectives who have no connection to your husband or his family's influence. They're willing to open an unofficial investigation." "What do they need from me?" "Everything. Timeline of abuse, financial records, any evidence you had of David's behavior before the accident. Names of people who might have noticed something off." "I don't have access to any of our papers." Rachel smiled slightly. "But I do. My client has been resourceful." Hope flickered in my chest for the first time in months. "And if we build this case, then you come back from the dead, Stephanie, with enough evidence to show that your husband and in-laws attempted to murder you and your daughter for financial gain." As Emma laughed on the playground, the sound startled me. It had been so long since I'd heard her genuinely happy. If we do this, I said slowly, I need guarantees that Emma will be protected. That's my specialty, Rachel assured me. I've helped relocate dozens of women and children in danger. And the insurance money? Once fraud is proven, the company will demand repayment. David will lose everything. Rachel studied me. This won't be easy. The moment you resurface, you'll be thrust into a media circus. David will claim you ran away, fabricated evidence, coached your daughter. Emma doesn't need coaching to tell the truth about what her father did, I said coldly. Rachel nodded. I believe you. But a jury needs more than belief. They need evidence, rock solid, undeniable proof. Then let's find it, I said, watching my daughter swing higher and higher, her face turned toward the sky. I'm done hiding. He tried to kill me before the cliff, I told Rachel, my voice steady despite the memories flooding back. At least 3 times. We sat in the back room of the diner after closing, files spread across the table. 9 months had passed since our deaths, and we'd spent the last 3 gathering evidence against David and his parents. Rachel looked up from her notes. Tell me about each incident. First, the brakes on my car failed while I was driving Emma to preschool. Mechanic said the line had been cleanly cut. David acted concerned, said it must have been vandals. When was this? About 7 months before the cliff. Then, 3 months later, I got violently ill after David made me a special anniversary dinner. Emma was with his parents that night. I thought it was food poisoning, but now I'm certain he put something in my food. Rachel made notes. Any medical records from that? I went to the emergency room. They pumped my stomach, found traces of something, but David convinced them I must have accidentally ingested cleaning products. And the 3rd attempt. Gas leak in our bedroom while David took Emma on an overnight camping trip. I woke up dizzy, barely made it outside. Repair guy said a line had been deliberately loosened. I swallowed hard. David said I must have bumped it while cleaning. Did you report any of these incidents? I shook my head. I trusted him. I never imagined he'd try to. My voice broke. It's the pattern that's damning, Rachel said. 1 incident could be an accident. 3, followed by pushing you off a cliff? That's attempted murder. The front door of the diner jingled, and Maggie appeared with Emma. My daughter had recovered some of her spark in recent months, though she still had nightmares. Ice cream mission accomplished, Maggie announced with a wink at Emma. Double chocolate, as requested. Thanks, Aunt Maggie, Emma said, using the title she'd given Ray's niece. She spotted me and ran over. Mommy, I got an A on my math test. I pulled her into a hug. That's amazing, sweetie. I'm so proud of you. While Emma settled at a corner table with her homework, Rachel leaned closer to me. Detective Morales found something. David took out another life insurance policy on you just 2 weeks before the cliff incident. Double indemnity for accidental death. How much? Another $1 million. And get this, his father was helping him with the paperwork. She slid a document across the table. We also found evidence he was deeply in debt. Gambling mostly. His company was about to audit him for suspicious transactions. I stared at the paper, feeling sick. So, I was his golden ticket out of trouble. You and Emma both. The policies named him as sole beneficiary. After Rachel left, I helped Maggie close up the diner, my mind racing. The case against David was growing stronger every day, but so was my fear. Coming forward meant putting Emma through the trauma of reliving everything, facing David again, enduring a trial. Back at our apartment, I tucked Emma in bed. Mommy, when can I be Emma again instead of Lily? She asked sleepily. Soon, baby. Probably very soon. Will we see Daddy again? The question hung in the air between us. I chose my words carefully. We might have to just once more. How would you feel about that? She was quiet for so long I thought she'd fallen asleep. Then, in a small voice, scared, but also mad. She looked up at me. He tried to hurt us, right? That's why we're hiding. Yes, sweetie. Then I want to tell the police what he did. So he can't hurt anyone else. Tears pricked my eyes at her bravery. You're the strongest person I know, Emma Miller. After she fell asleep, I called Ray. The detective friend of Rachel's thinks we have enough, I told him. We're planning to come forward next month. You ready for this? Ray's gruff voice was concerned.
No.
But it's time. David's spending the insurance money like water. His girlfriend, Rachel's client, says he's talking about moving abroad. What's the plan? There's a memorial service on the anniversary of our deaths next month. Rachel thinks that's the perfect time to return. I took a deep breath. She's arranging for police protection. We'll arrive during the service. Dramatic, Ray commented. You sure that's wise? It's not about drama. It's about catching him off guard in public with witnesses. Rachel says we need to control the narrative from the start. 2 weeks later, Emma and I met with Detective Morales, a stern woman with kind eyes. Your husband had a pattern, she said, showing me files I'd never seen. Before you, there was another woman, Julia Ramirez. She fell down a flight of stairs while dating David in college. Nearly died. Case was ruled an accident, but the investigating officer had suspicions. Did you speak with her? I asked. She's willing to testify about his violent behavior. Says he showed the same patterns, isolating her, controlling her finances, subtle threats. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled out the small album of photos I'd managed to salvage, our life before everything fell apart. There was David holding newborn Emma, looking every bit the proud father. There we were on our honeymoon, his arm around me, as we smiled for the camera. Had it all been a lie? Had he been calculating my worth from the very beginning? The next morning, Rachel arrived at the diner with more files. We've linked David's father to 2 other suspicious insurance claims, she said. Former business partners who died under questionable circumstances. Nothing was ever proven, but the pattern's there. Will it be enough? I asked. With Emma's testimony, the evidence of prior attempts on your life, the financial paper trail, and Julia's statement? Yes, it's more than enough. As the anniversary of our deaths approached, final preparations were made. Rachel arranged for us to stay at a safe house with police protection. We rehearsed what would happen, how Emma would be shielded from media, what to expect from David's reaction. He'll be shocked at first, Rachel predicted. Then he'll try to spin it, claim you ran away, that you're mentally unstable, that you're coaching Emma. I know my husband, I said. He'll try to charm his way out, then when that fails, he'll get angry. His real self will show through. That's exactly what we want, Rachel nodded. For everyone to see who he really is. The night before the memorial service, I sat with Emma at the safe house, watching her draw. Are you scared about tomorrow? I asked. She looked up, her eyes serious. A little. But you'll be with me, right? Every second, I promised. Then I'll be brave, she said simply, returning to her drawing. I looked at what she was creating. A picture of the 2 of us standing tall, with tiny figures of David and his parents far below us. Tomorrow, the masquerade would end. We would stop being Sarah and Lily Mitchell and reclaim our true identities. David Miller would finally face justice for what he had done. And Emma and I would be free. The church was packed for the memorial service. 1 year to the day since Emma and I had died, and it seemed the entire town had come to mourn us. Through the tinted windows of Detective Morales' unmarked car, I watched people file in, neighbors, co-workers, friends I hadn't seen since David began isolating me. You ready? Rachel asked from the front seat. I looked down at Emma, sitting beside me in a simple blue dress, her hair pulled back with the butterfly clip she'd insisted on wearing. As ready as we'll ever be. Detective Morales went through the plan one final time. We'll enter through the side door during the service. Officers are already positioned inside. We'll approach only when I give the signal. My heart hammered against my ribs as we waited for the service to begin. Through the church's open windows, I could hear the organ playing a somber hymn. Emma's small hand found mine. It's okay to be scared, Mommy, she whispered. I'm scared too. I squeezed her hand. Sometimes being brave means doing something even when you're terrified. When the signal finally came, we moved toward the church. Detective Morales led the way, Rachel beside me, and 2 officers flanking us. Each step felt like walking through quicksand. Inside, David stood at the pulpit. His voice carried through the church as he spoke about his beloved wife and daughter, his unimaginable loss, how he was finding the strength to carry on. His parents sat in the front pew, his mother dabbing at dry eyes with a handkerchief, his father looking appropriately solemn. All three of them playing their parts perfectly. Detective Morales motioned for us to wait in the vestibule. I could see David clearly, but he couldn't see us. Stephanie was the love of my life, he was saying, voice catching with practiced emotion. And Emma was my heart. Not a day goes by that I don't think of them, miss them, wish I could tell them one more time how much I loved them. Rage burned in my chest. This man had shoved us off a cliff, had tried repeatedly to kill me, had been willing to murder his own daughter. And here he was, using our names to paint himself as the grieving, devoted husband and father. It's time, Detective Morales said quietly. We stepped into the main sanctuary. A gasp rippled through the congregation as people noticed us. Heads turned, whispers erupted. David continued speaking, unaware of the disturbance until his father looked up, saw us, and went deathly pale. David followed his father's gaze, and the transformation in his face was instant. Shock, disbelief, then terror. The microphone slipped from his hand with a screech of feedback. Hello, David, I said, my voice carrying through the sudden silence. Sorry to interrupt. Emma stood tall beside me, her chin raised, eyes fixed on her father. Stephanie, David whispered, looking as though he'd seen a ghost, which, in a way, he had. Emma? How? What? His mother half rose from her seat, swaying dangerously. His father sat frozen, face ashen. Detective Morales stepped forward, badge in hand. David Miller, Richard and Ellen Miller, you're under arrest for the attempted murders of Stephanie and Emma Miller. The church erupted in chaos. People stood, cameras flashed as someone from the local paper captured the moment. David seemed to recover himself, stepping down from the pulpit, arms outstretched as if to embrace us. Stephanie, oh my God, you're alive. We thought you were dead. Where have you been? Why didn't you come home? His performance was flawless, the shocked, overjoyed husband. But his eyes told a different story. They were cold, calculating, already forming a plan. Don't come any closer, I warned as officers moved between us. Stephanie, what's going on? What are these ridiculous accusations? His voice was pitched for the audience, wounded innocence in every syllable. Then Emma spoke, her clear voice cutting through the noise. You pushed us, Daddy. You and Grandpa and Grandma wanted the money from the insurance. I heard you talking about it before we went to the cliff. David's facade cracked, just for a moment. Rage flickered across his face before he composed himself again. Sweetheart, you're confused. You must have hit your head in the fall. This is crazy. We have evidence, David. I interrupted. Of all three attempts before the cliff. Of the insurance policies. Of your gambling debts. Of everything. His mother crumpled into her seat, but his father stepped forward. This is absurd. My son would never. Save it for your lawyer, Mr. Miller, Detective Morales said, nodding to the officers who were already reading David his rights. As they led him past us in handcuffs, David leaned toward me. You'll regret this, he hissed, too quietly for anyone else to hear. Nobody will believe you. I met his gaze. Everyone already does. The trial lasted 6 weeks. David's defense crumbled under the weight of evidence, the multiple insurance policies, his financial troubles, testimony from his college girlfriend about his previous violence, expert analysis of the accidents before the cliff incident. His parents turned on him in exchange for reduced sentences, claiming they'd known nothing about his plans until the day at the cliff, when it was too late to stop him. Through it all, Emma showed remarkable strength. Her therapist helped prepare her for her testimony, which was given via closed-circuit television to spare her the trauma of facing her father in the courtroom. He said Mommy had to go away, she told the jury, her voice small but steady. He said we'd have lots of money after. Grandpa said to make it look like an accident. When the verdict came, David and his parents were convicted on all counts. As the judge read the sentences, Life imprisonment for David, 20 years each for his parents. I felt no joy, only a profound relief. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded us. For weeks, our story had dominated national headlines. Back from the dead, mother and daughter survive murder plot, and insurance scam turns TO attempted murder. What will you do now? A reporter called out. I looked down at Emma, who smiled up at me, a real smile that reached her eyes. We're going to live, I said simply. 5 years later, Emma and I sat on the beach, watching the sunset. We'd moved to a small coastal town where nobody knew our story. With the insurance company's help, we'd recovered the money David had spent and used it to build a new life. Emma, now 11, was thriving. Straight-A student, soccer team captain, surrounded by friends who knew nothing of her past trauma. Mom, she said, digging her toes into the sand, I had that dream again last night. The falling one? I asked, heart sinking. No. She shook her head. The flying one. Where we're not falling. We're flying away. And below us, I can see Dad and Grandma and Grandpa looking up, but they can't reach us. I put my arm around her shoulders. That sounds like a good dream. It is. She leaned against me. You know what the best part is? In the dream, I'm not scared anymore. Are you still scared in real life sometimes? She considered this. Not of him. Not really. He can't hurt us now. I watched the waves lapping at the shore, thinking of the long journey that had brought us here. The fear, the hiding, the fight for justice, the healing. We'd emerged stronger, closer, more resilient. David had tried to destroy us for money. Instead, he'd lost everything, while Emma and I had found something precious, the unshakable certainty that we could survive anything together. As the last rays of sunlight painted the ocean gold, Emma slipped her hand into mine. We sat in comfortable silence, two survivors watching the day and knowing without doubt that tomorrow would come, bringing new beginnings. We were no longer falling. We were flying.